Second Avenue is the Israeli consulate. So I've spoken with a lot of these pro-Palestinian protesters today. Some of them tell me that they do not support Hamas, but others, Brett, are in blatant denial of what happened last Saturday, where 1,300 Israeli lives were claimed in that terror attack by Hamas. Earlier today, there were about 50 counter-protesters, pro-Israel protesters, and there was 50 counter-protesters, pro-Israel protesters, and there was certainly a lot of emotion on both sides of the street. Listen to this.
I am heartbroken. There's no words can express. But watching people sympathize with Hamas, cheering, protesting for the name of Hamas, and chanting Free Palestine in the moment like this, I have no words.
New York City police used extra officers today, Brett, not only at protest locations, but across the city, specifically at schools and houses of worship. But this isn't just New York. Take a look at this. Pro-Palestinian protests happened in cities across America today, including Washington, D.C., Chicago, and also Miami, where the protest ended into arrest. Now, one of the pro-Palestinian organizations that hosted today's protest is called Within Our Lifetime, Brett. They are openly against a two-state solution and also openly advocate eliminating Israel. This is a quote from their website, by any means necessary. We'll send it back to you, Brett.
All right, Nate Foy in New York with the protesters. Nate, thanks. A Stanford University instructor out in California has been sidelined for what is termed identity-based targeting of students. The unidentified teacher allegedly told Jewish students in class to identify themselves, then take their belongings and stand in a corner because, quote, this is what Israel does to Palestinians. Stanford's president issued a statement saying he is addressing several issues on campus since the Hamas attack. A protest has begun at Baruch College in Manhattan. This is where CB Cotton is tonight. Good evening, CB.
Good evening, Brett. Pro-Palestinian supporters here prayed, marched, chanted during a protest, calling for an end to what they say is Israel's genocide in the region.
There was a propaganda going around about 40 babies being burned alive and slaughtered, whatever. That was obviously propaganda.
I think in this case that certainly what Hamas did is violence, but we have to understand that these people have been under occupation for 75 years.
That protester, one of about 100 pro-Palestinian supporters who showed up to Baruch College, many wearing scarves to cover their faces, refusing to talk about their stance. But chants from the crowd revealing many feel Israel is ultimately responsible for the surprise Hamas attacks, saying Palestinians have been forced to live under occupation. At one point, a man with flyers of kidnapped Israelis got into a heated argument with a pro-Palestinian supporter, cops stepping in to separate the two. Both men are now facing disorderly conduct charges. Hundreds more facing off in dueling protests on Columbia's campus yesterday. The campus was closed ahead of the protest. One student estimating nearly 500 gathered to support Palestine. And Brett, moments ago, Governor Kathy Hochul announcing there will be an increased police presence at public universities and colleges ahead of Friday evening Shabbat services for Jewish students. Brett.
CB Cotton in New York. CB, thanks. Up next, we'll go to the touchscreen, update you what's happening on the ground in Israel and in and around the area, plus analysis from former Defense Secretary, former CIA Director, Leon Panetta.
This is no time for neutrality or for false equivalence or for excuses for the inexcusable. There is never any justification.
Welcome back to Special Report. We want to take you on the ground, give you a look of what's happening. We told you about the efforts by the Israelis to get the folks inside Gaza, on the northern part of Gaza, this area, to move south, to get evacuated. They dropped these flyers, and they're trying to move them south and ideally out of the way of what is likely to be a ground incursion into northern Gaza. We don't know when exactly that's going to happen, but already there are Israeli forces that have gone in on the ground. Now, if you look at the population here, we've split it up into 5 different regions, and this darkest is up to 650,000. That would be right around Gaza City. But there are other big areas, including up here, up to 250,000 and down along the southern part of Gaza. And just to give you a sense, there's 2.3 million people inside this. If you look at the breakdown here, this is population by density, and it gives you a different sense of how many people are jammed in this small area. Here's D.C., Los Angeles, Tel Aviv, and here is Gaza. 1 dot equals 10 people. Look at how packed that is. There's another visual to show you about that. This is Gaza City. Now, these are all individual, stacked on stacked houses. And, you know, you can see this open area here. This is possibly a mosque here. But this is street by street. So imagine this fighting if you're Israeli Defense Forces going in to try to rescue hostages. There are a lot of possible booby traps and all kinds of possibilities here. Now, as you go back to the original map, you can see that up here in the north, there has been some fighting back and forth, some small arms fire for Israeli Defense Forces along the border. It's believed that right in here is where the back and forth happened with the loss of that photojournalist from Reuters. And what Hamas was doing, this is Hezbollah territory, but what Hamas was doing was very calculated. Take a listen.
They had this planned down to a T. They knew what they were going to do, and it's more than that, okay? I mean, again, the materials show not only were they very much planning to go after these civilian places, I think more will come out, Brett, in the future, just about how much they planned, and really just that their orders were not just to take hostages, but to kill people.
Joining us tonight, former Defense Secretary, former CIA Director Leon Panetta. Mr. Secretary, thanks for the time. Obviously, we're looking at the situation. It's developing by the hour. Your thoughts overall as we get ready to see Israel go in earnest into Gaza?
Any invading force would ultimately be caught having to go into door-to-door fighting, building to building, room to room, basement to basement. This would be very tough. In terms of being able to ultimately be able to get at Hamas and be able to destroy them. So it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge. It's not that Israel isn't up to that challenge. They've got over 300,000 reservists that are now mobilized, and they know that territory. They know how to do it. But it's still going to be very tough, and it's going to be costly as well.
Yeah, I'm going to play the soundbite from John Kirby, and I know you dealt with as CIA Director and Defense Secretary Hamas and saw how Iran was funding it all along. The specific question about Iran's direct involvement has been kind of a back and forth here. Here's what John Kirby said.
That we just haven't seen any specific tangible intelligence that leads us to the conclusion that the regime in Tehran was witting a resourced participant in these specific attacks. But I also want to make it clear that we absolutely believe in the broad complicity of Iran here.
What's the difference, John? What's the difference?
Without Iran, there would be no Hamas, there would be no Hezbollah. We understand that. But what I'm saying is we're looking at it and we haven't seen the direct evidence.
I guess I just want to know the reluctance here, you think, of the administration saying that. Now we have these pieces. Wall Street Journal, Iran helped plot attack on Israel over several weeks. Washington Post, Hamas received weapons and training from Iran. New York Times, Hamas attack on Israel brings new scrutiny on groups' ties to Iran. And the quote there is Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, held an hours-long online meeting in March with an elite group of strategists from all the Iran-backed militias and told them to get ready for a war with Israel with a scope and reach, including a ground invasion that would mark a new era, according to 2 participants from Iran and Syria. Is there a reluctance here, Mr. Secretary, from this administration because of Iran policy in the past?
It is obvious that we know that Iran has been very supportive of these terrorist groups. When I was CIA director, Iran was supportive of Hamas and Hezbollah without question, and they continued to provide help and support. And obviously, the Wall Street Journal article kind of described specifically how they got involved in planning with this operation as well. Now, I think obviously our intelligence has to be comfortable that they did see specific help with regards to this operations. I understand that. But I think the more they look at this and the more they uncover and the more intelligence they get, I think it's inevitable that they're going to find that Iran played a larger role than they expected at this point.
And just knowing what you know, are you worried about this expanding a lot more broadly quickly?
Well, I don't think there's any question that there's a real danger of this war escalating. Once Israel moves into Gaza, it's very likely that Hezbollah is going to ramp up its efforts to try to draw them north towards Lebanon. And it's also possible that Iran, through other proxy groups, will continue to try to see if they can upset the effort by Israel moving into Gaza.
Mr. Secretary, I'd be remiss. Obviously, the House is in chaos as they try to find a speaker, but they're investigating still the Hunter Biden situation. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about that letter you signed on to from former intelligence officials saying that the laptop and the emails had all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. Obviously, the New York Post and others saying the Hunter Biden laptop letter was the real disinformation all along. That letter was used in the debate. I haven't asked you this, but do you have regrets about that now looking back, knowing what you know now?
Well, you know, Brett, look, I was extremely concerned about Russian interference and misinformation. And we all know it. Intelligence agencies discovered that Russia had continued to push disinformation across the board. And my concern was to kind of alert the public to be aware that these disinformation efforts went on. And frankly, I haven't seen any evidence from any intelligence agency that that was not the case.
You don't think that it was real?
I think that disinformation is involved here. I think Russian disinformation is part of what we're seeing everywhere. I don't trust the Russians, and that's exactly why I was concerned that the public not trust the Russians either.
I don't want to dwell on this because we have bigger things to talk about and bigger urgency. But obviously, Hunter Biden said it was his laptop, and this investigation continues. So you don't have any regrets about doing what you did?
No, I don't have any regrets about not trusting the Russians.
Okay. Mr. Secretary, thank you. We appreciate the time.
Good to be with you.
The panel joins me.
All right, well, it's Friday the 13th, and this is also the day that, I don't even remember the guy's name, that I think he was an ex-Hamas leader. Well, they say he's ex. I think he's currently a Hamas leader. He's living in Qatar or something like that. He says this is the day of rage, where he calls on Muslims worldwide to protest, make some noise. We'll see what happens around the world. I fully expect some of the people who hear his message to take it to heart and actually do something. I bet there will be some attacks today. I'll be surprised if there aren't. No, there's this lady, Adalia Al-Aqidi. She's running for congressman in Michigan to take the place of, I want to say, Ilhan Omar. The lady's running. She's a Muslim, but then it's going to have to be a Muslim to take Omar away, to take her place, because you probably don't realize how many Muslims have moved into Michigan, which is why Omar was elected. I think they came over there from Somalia. They moved a lot of them there. There's a heavy population. Hope she wins. She seems a lot more level-headed and American than Omar does. Israel finally told Gaza today. I think they also notified the United Nations. They said, Gaza, you better get out. And they told them, they drew a line about the middle of the way you saw on the map, and they said, go south of there. Leave your house, get to the south of Gaza, and anyone left north of Gaza is going to be considered a fighter. The problem is the Hamas, their government, that's who Hamas is. They were elected in 2005. I think it was 2005. Maybe it was before that. But they say they were elected. They just took over the government, and they say they're elected every year whenever there's elections. But they're really a dictatorship. So the problem is they won't let people leave. They want them to die. They want to sacrifice these people. The people don't want to be sacrificed, but Hamas wants them to be. It's quite a death cult. They won't let the people leave because they want them to die in the bombs, and when Israel rolls in with the tanks, and they're going to be in the houses with those people and firing at the Israelis. So when the Israelis fire back, civilians are going to die, and that's how these people are. They love death. They hate other people more than they love their own children, more than they love their families, more than they love Palestinians. They don't want freedom. They don't want their own state. Well, they do, as long as Israel's gone. So I keep hearing people call them Nazis. That's exactly like what they are. They're just not a National Socialist Party, but they want to eliminate the Jews, and they've got a lot of neighbors that really wouldn't mind to go along with them. Some of them, like Saudi Arabia, they're making a lot of money, so they're more moderate, and that's why Iran did this. They want to disrupt the Abraham Accords, and they want to disrupt the peace deals that are about to happen with all the other Middle Eastern countries. So Israel today, a little bit tangent there. Israel today, you saw on the video, they're dropping flyers to tell the Gazans, get out, go south. Earlier, days ago, I heard that they were sending text messages to everybody in Gaza, and I thought that's pretty good. They can, they have all their phones, and they probably provide the phone service. But then I started thinking, well, they said they cut off all the power, so all the power and all the gas. So how are they charging their phones? They're probably not charging their phones. So it's a good thing they dropped leaflets in this. I mean, it looks like something from World War II or, Korean War or Vietnam to me, dropping leaflets. It's an effective way. I mean, they can pick up the paper. It's not like their phones won't charge. So, with the technology that we have today, I wouldn't be surprised if once Israel starts to invade that it's a full-blown, it's all on video. I mean, think about all the different things you've seen, like AI robots and those little, Russell Brand calls them digi-dogs, those little robot dogs with no heads. They can mount guns to them. They're all going to have cameras. I would be surprised if we don't see a whole lot of new different kinds of weapons come out, because they say this is going to be a brutal, as bad as it gets, urban guerrilla warfare. So instead of sending your guys down that alley, down that street first, or into the house, wouldn't you send in these robots like mad? I mean, I would think that they'd be making them like crazy. Big drones, send in the drones, especially into these buildings who have had all the windows blown out, but the building's still there, the taller ones. I would think we would see a lot of technology this time. Those, I would fly, you've seen big drones. I hope they have little ones they can fly in windows, and just I hope that they use technology as much as possible to keep their people from going into these places to fight. So into the places to fight where it's so tight that it's a 50-50, or maybe even the enemy will have the advantage. So I think we're going to see a lot of that this time. Even if we don't see the technology, it's going to be, all of it's going to be on camera. And if the Israelis don't have it on camera, the Palestinians certainly will. So, pray for Israel. I mean, they're not going away, but pray for Israel's protection. Stand with Israel, and hope for the best. Those poor, those hostages. I've seen so many people, like those parents whose kids were kidnapped and taken to Gaza. They know it's a nightmare, and I saw at least one, maybe two, where the parents were talking about their kid being kidnapped, and they found out that their child was dead, and they were celebrating. I mean, they said they were happy. I guess as happy as you can be for your kid to be dead, but what they meant was death was better than what was going to face the people that were kidnapped in Gaza. I mean, if you saw my last video, you saw the lady, her pants were bloody, and that was from her being raped. And she hadn't even been taken out of Israel yet. They were just videotaping her there as they had kidnapped her. So you can't even imagine what they're going to do to the people, the hostages that they took. And when they say that our government's going to go in and get them out, I hope they do. I don't see how they can. I don't see how any of them live. But then, I'm not a war fighter, and so, props to those guys. Salute. We appreciate you fellas. We're amazed at what you do. So, God bless America. God bless Israel.